Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode corporate filing so you don't have to. Today we're diving into Plumas Bancorp's proxy statement, and let me tell you, there's more than meets the eye in this document. We're talking director elections, executive pay, and even a potential merger. It's a wild ride, so buckle up. Plumas Bancorp is asking shareholders to vote on some important things. First, they need to elect 9 directors to the board. Second, there's an advisory vote on how much the executives get paid. Third, shareholders get to weigh in on how often they should vote on executive pay in the future. And finally, they want shareholders to approve their choice of accounting firm. Let's get into it. First up, this is a formal filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, which means it's a document where Plumas Bancorp tells its investors about important decisions they will be making. These decisions include choosing the people who will run the company and approving how much those people get paid. It's like a report card for the company, but with votes instead of grades. The company is excited to report that despite a challenging economic and interest rate environment, they ended 2024 with solid financial performance. They're also proud of awards and recognitions, including being relisted on the Russell 2000 smallest companies in the United States. It shows the company is doing well enough to be included among those smaller but significant players in the smallest companies in the United States. It shows the company is doing well enough to be included among those smaller but significant players in the market. Plumas Bancorp also has a pending acquisition of Cornerstone Community Bancorp, expected to close in the second half of 2025. This is a big deal because it means Plumas Bancorp is growing by buying another company. Once it's done, they'll be able to serve more people and businesses in Northern California. Now, let's look at who's up for election to the board of directors. These are the people who make the big decisions for the company, so it's important to know who they are. The nominees are Michonne Asquarga, Stephen Kaldani, Kevin Foster, Richard Kenny, Robert McClintock, Heidi O'Gara, Sushil Patel, Andrew Ryback, and Daniel West. Shareholders will vote on whether or not to elect these individuals to the board. Daniel West is the chairman of the board and has been a director since 1997. That's a long time. He also runs a land management and water utility company. The company values his business experience, his work on different boards, and his connections to the community. Robert McClintock is the vice chairman and has been a director since 2008. He is a retired certified public accountant, or CPA. So he brings strong accounting and financial skills to the table. This is helpful for the company because he can oversee their financial reporting and risk management. Let's take a look at who owns the most stock in Plumas Bancorp. Fidelity Management and Research LLC owns 8.9% of the company's stock, BlackRock Inc. owns 5.5%, and the Vanguard Group owns 5.2%. These are big investment companies, so their ownership shows that Plumas Bancorp is attracting attention from large investors. Andrew Ryback, who is the president, CEO, and a director, owns 1.6% of the company. It's always good to see the CEO have some skin in the game because it means he has an incentive to make the company do well. There was a slight problem with some paperwork. Some directors and executives didn't file their reports on time, but it seems like it was just an oversight, a mistake. The company said that each of the current directors and executives who held their respective positions during 2024 inadvertently failed to timely file one report each on Form 4 with respect to the grant of options or restricted stock units. And Ms. O'Gara failed a Form 5 reporting related to 6 acquisitions of a total of 10 shares pursuant to dividend reinvestments made during 23, which she was unaware of. The board determined that most of the directors are independent, meaning they don't have any personal or business ties that could influence their decisions. This is important because it helps to make sure that the directors are acting in the best interests of all shareholders, not just themselves. Andrew Ryback is not independent because he is an employee of the company. Here's a snapshot of how much the non-employee directors made in 2024. Michonne Asquarga made about $80,000. Stephen Kaldani made about $85,000. Richard Kenny and Robert McClintock also made around $85,000. Richard Kenny and Robert McClintock also made around $85,000. Daniel West as chairman made about $90,000. This includes cash fees, stock and option awards, and a small allowance for electronic devices. Now let's talk about the executive compensation, how much the top executives get paid. Andrew Ryback, the president and CEO, made about $867,000 in 2024. Richard Belstock, the CFO, made about $450,000. These numbers include salary, stock, and option awards, incentive plan compensation, and other benefits. A big part of executive pay comes from incentives, meaning bonuses based on the company's performance. These incentives are tied to things like return on assets or ROA, meaning how well the company is using its assets to generate profits. The better the company performs, the bigger the bonuses. The 2024 incentive earned by Andrew Ryback was about $285,000. Richard Belstock earned $122,000 and BJ North $115,000. Here's a table comparing the executive pay with the company's performance. This table includes the summary compensation, table total for the CEO, the compensation actually paid to the CEO, the average for other top executives, the total shareholder return, which means how much the company's stock price has increased, and the company's net income. It shows how pay is linked to performance over the last 3 years. The pay versus performance table shows the importance of incentive payments and option grants. As shown in the chart, the PO and other NEO's compensation actually paid amounts are aligned with the company's total shareholder return. This is due in large part to the company's use of incentive payments, which are tied to the company's financial performance. This table lists all the stock options that the top executives currently hold. It shows how many shares they have the right to buy, at what price, and when those rights expire. Shareholders get to vote on whether or not they approve of the executive pay packages. This is called a say-on-pay vote, and it's advisory, meaning the board doesn't have to follow the shareholders' recommendation. But it does give shareholders a chance to voice their opinion on whether the executives are being paid fairly. The board recommends voting for the approval on an advisory, non-binding basis. Finally, the company wants shareholders to approve their choice of accounting firm, Elliott Davis, LLC. The company changed accounting firms because the previous firm, Ida Bailey LLP, decided to leave the financial institution part of their SEC audit practice. It's important to have a good accounting firm to make sure the company's financial statements are accurate. Elliott Davis made about $399,000 for their services. That's compared to the $432,000 that Ida Bailey earned in 2023 ton. So, what's my take on Plumas Bancorp? Direction. It looks like the company is heading in a good direction, with solid financial performance and a potential merger on the horizon. The focus on community banking and local connections seems to be working well for them. Strengths. One of their biggest strengths is their strong ties to the communities they serve. This helps them build relationships with customers and attract local investors. Weaknesses. One potential weakness is that they are a smaller bank, which means they may not have the same resources as larger banks. This could make it more difficult for them to compete in the long run, and the recent paperwork mishaps. Risks. The company faces risks from changes in the economy, interest rates, and regulations. They also need to make sure they can successfully integrate Cornerstone Community Bancorp if the merger goes through. Opportunities. The merger with Cornerstone Community Bancorp could be a big opportunity for Plumas Bancorp to expand its reach and serve more customers. They could also benefit from new technologies and changing customer preferences. In conclusion, Plumas Bancorp seems to be a well-managed community bank with a bright future. They have a strong focus on their local markets and are taking steps to grow their business. That's all for today's Corporate Decoder. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insights into the world of corporate filings.